नाउ द पॉलिसी मेकर्स जो भी चेंज बनाते हैं ना, वो पीछे नहीं देखते, काफी टाइम आगे भी नहीं देखते.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Excluto podcast. I'm Paritosh, your host for today's episode. We are honored today to have Dr. Srikanth Sundararajan on the show. He is a general partner at Venture East. It's a venture capital firm based out of India, established in 1997. Dr. Srikanth has spoken candidly with us. He has talked about the strength and weaknesses of the entire Indian startup ecosystem, which not only includes the private players but the government as well. Shrikant sir has shared his story with us, and at the end of it all, he has left us with a lot of optimism. I'm sure you guys would definitely love the conversation. So, without further ado, let's jump in directly into the conversation. Very well. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to, have conversations with people of your caliber so that we can spread awareness as much as possible about this particular asset class that we are working in, VC ecosystem and the general AIF. So yeah, it's doing pretty good. How are you doing, sir? And
All
how's
good. I mean,
things?
it's
And
good. Yeah, things are pretty good actually. We are doing a lot of stuff in the Hyderabad ecosystem now, basically to rejuvenate a few things. I think certain things have stalled. So we're getting essentially the key ingredients of an ecosystem, which is the industry, academia, the government, the investors, and obviously the entrepreneurs, without whom we can't do much. And trying to build essentially connects for them, because everything is in a network, and we're trying to get them all online. And then we will also try and connect up with platforms such as what you have found at Excluto and other platforms, so that we can actually start measuring impact. Because unfortunately, while we do a lot in the startup ecosystem, a lot of it is not recorded properly, and what comes out is very sporadic in the press. Either it'll be great news or it'll be really bad news.
I
The
see.
fact of the matter is, we've been in the venture industry since 1997, and we've seen a
Yes.
lot of turns. And I've been a 3-time entrepreneur. I've seen a lot of turns, and I think you have to be patient, and you have to kind of focus on quality as well as measured quantity. I think once that happens through platforms like yours, I think it'll be fantastic.
That's great, sir. That's great. So let's go down the memory line because
Sure.
you have. I mean, in 40 years plus work experience, I believe you must have seen a lot of transformation happen across the globe. आप USA में रह चुके, India में रह चुके. You have that sort of perspective, towards both the countries, right? And you've worked in Hewlett and Packard. You have been the CTO at HCL, CTO at Cognizant, CEO at Persistent. You have done a lot of things, as you rightly mentioned. Up entrepreneur bhi reh chuke. So a lot of perspective, I believe, you have to share with us. So let's start with that, sir. You said 1984 में आपने startup world में आपका sort of enter हुआ. तो वहां तक story की सर एक बार हम would like to hear that.
ठीक है. तो मेरा MS PhD स्कॉलरशिप था, तो मैं गया था वहाँ MS and PhD कंप्यूटर साइंस में करने के लिए. बिकॉज जिस टाइम मैं IIT में पढ़ रहा था, कंप्यूटर साइंस वाज नॉट ऑफर्ड. इट ओनली got offered, I think, in 1982, by which time I was already in my third year. And so we did some elective courses, but we didn't really understand the impact. So जब मैं Urbana-Champaign पहुंचा, which is a very, very good university for computer science as well as. So one thing that struck me was how open they were about innovation. Government के through, startup के through, काफी startups थे, काफी लोग थे. पर उन दिनों क्या होता था कि जो एक्सपर्ट्स थे, जो सीनियर मेंटर्स थे, उनके पास वक्त भी था, टाइम, समय भी था, तो वो आपके साथ समय बिताते थे, आपको ठीक से सिखाते थे. अभी वो लग्जरी नहीं है हमारे पास, बिकॉज सब लोगों को जल्दी भागना है, जल्दी पहुंचना है. तो आपको ताजुब होगा कि मेरा पहला AI एंड मशीन लर्निंग कोर्स जो मैंने लिया था, वो 1985 में लिया था. ओके. और तब हमें पता भी नहीं था कि
AI now.
हाँ, अभी पता भी नहीं था कहाँ जाएगा ये मशीन लर्निंग. प्रोफेसर मिखाउस्की के थ्रू लिया था. NLP, नेचुरल लैंग्वेज प्रोसेसिंग, रॉजर शैंक के प्रोफेसर स्टूडेंट जो मेरे प्रोफेसर थे IIT कमेटी में, ग्रेग कॉलिन से लिया हुआ था. तब सब चीज नई थी, हार्डवेयर चेंज हो रहा था फ्रॉम मेन फ्रेम्स टू क्लाइंट सर्वर, यूनिक्स ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम आ रहा था, C++ लैंग्वेजेस की स्पेसिफिकेशंस हो रही थी. We were in the middle of it. We were writing the operating system. We were writing the hardware. We were सब कर रहे थे. तो वैसा एक्सपीरियंस अगर यहाँ लोगों को मिलता आज भी, तो इंडिया कहीं का होता. वैसा एक्सपीरियंस नहीं मिलता है बिकॉज एवरीथिंग इज बिकम काइंड ऑफ क्लॉइस्टर्ड. कोई कुछ कर रहा है, कोई कुछ कर रहा है. द होलिस्टिक व्यू इज नॉट देयर. And
lack of structure, I mean.
वही power say countries like US, I mean that is basically the benefit they give you because everything is open, accessible, people are friendly and they still mentor. तो अभी भी आप सिलिकॉन वैली जाओगे तो वही फर्क आपको नजर आएगा. वहां पे everyone is accessible, everyone spends time. थोड़ा वक्त भी बर्बाद हो but like the interfaces are kept right. यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि एक कंपनी किसी बंदे ने करा तो ऑटोमेटिकली हम उसे गॉड बना देते, और फिर वो नीचे गया तो ऑटोमेटिकली वो खिसक जाता है, राइट? तो बेसिक फंडा आर द सेम. ओके,
So are we operating on extremes then, sir?
we believe in hype, unfortunately. We've always gotten off towards that. In the 80s it was very very measured, proper here also in India. ठीक है, हमारे opportunities नहीं थे उतने, बट अभी तो सब हाइप ही लग रहा है. सब लोग इवेंट कर रहे हैं, सब लोग AI एक्सपर्ट बन गए हैं, सब लोग LLM मॉडल्स के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, सब लोग ये कर रहे हैं, क्वांटम कंप्यूटिंग के बारे में. ये सब ओवरनाइट नहीं होता ना.
हाँ, I agree sir, I agree. तो I mean, of course, I mean ये सब जब आप कर रहे थे, कहीं ना कहीं ये सब करते करते ही आपकी एंट्री टुवर्ड्स द स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम मे बी यूएसए में हुई ना आपकी स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम में एंट्री?
पहला स्टार्टअप यूएस में हुई. हाँ, सो मैं बोल रहा हूँ क्या हुआ. जब मैं पीएचडी कर रहा था तो मुझे 3-4 ऑफर आए. वन फ्रॉम सन माइक्रोसिस्टम्स, वो लोग फाउंडिंग कर रहे थे, अपोलो फाउंडर्स, आके यहाँ पे काम करो. तो इनिशियली मैं थोड़ा कंफ्यूज था. तो बीइंग on an F1 visa, finishing up PhD, I was completely, so I thought I'll go with a large company because I had always looked up to Bill Hewlett and Dave Packard because मेरे ख्याल से उन्होंने काफी काम किए थे and a lot of good stories that they built the company in the garage. Definitely. Built the first sound, what is called audio sound mobilizer, which was used in the very first Disney movie. So first audio Disney. So all very cool stuff. So मैं बोला चलते हैं वहाँ. पहुंच गया, फिर देखा कि सब लोग कुछ ना कुछ तो कर रहे हैं एंड दे डूइंग वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग वर्क, और टाइम भी बता रहे हैं, और आई मीन काम ऐसा होना चाहिए जिससे मजा हो, राइट? यू शुड आल्सो एंजॉय. सो आई नोटिस दैट एंड आई सेड ठीक है यार, ये लोग कर रहे हैं तो मैं भी कर लूंगा, बिकॉज उन दिनों उम्र 22 थी. ओके, एंड आई सेड लिसन, आई मीन द स्काई इज द लिमिट, आई कैन अफोर्ड टू, पता नहीं क्या था, जुनून था कि व्हाटएवर इट वाज, आई जस्ट जंप्ड इनटू इट. And it was a fantastic journey, my first startup, because मुझे VCs के बारे में कुछ पता नहीं था. So we actually built it from scratch. We actually
Pretzel Logic was the name I used.
Pretzel Logic. So it was वो क्या था? It was very techy, and it was what we know as Atlassian today is what we were trying to build. So we built it up. We got some fantastic revenue streams going. We raised VC money. सब अच्छी तरह से गया. We grew, revenues hit $21 million, which was fantastic in the valley with profitability, and then we got acquired. And we got acquired mainly because वहाँ पे momentum थोड़ा कम हो गया था because of Y2K का वो debacle हुआ था. So raising any more capital was not likely to happen. फिर मेरा एक personal problem भी था because my son had an accident when he was 2 years old. So he became a paraplegic. He still lives with us. तो उस वजह से I had my daughter growing up, or we had our daughter growing up in India. So once that first company got sold, then because I'd made very, very good friends with Mr. Shiv Nadar, Ajay Chaudhary, Arjun Malhotra. So they said, if you plan to come back, whenever you come back, come join HCL. So I came. That 2 years was fantastic working with them, looking at a lot of technology because I'm a technologist at heart. I don't have an MBA. I have a PhD in computer science, so very, very different. And whatever I learned because of my first startup. I made a lot of mistakes. कई गलतियां की. Okay. मैं पहला था जिसने सोचा कि ठीक है, पेरोल को आउटसोर्स कर देते हैं. उन दिनों it was radical. And Wells Fargo जो हमारा पहला कस्टमर था, उन्होंने बोला हमसे ही पेरोल ले लो. फिर उनके सॉफ्टवेयर में कुछ गलती था कि सबको, जब छोटा स्टार्टअप है, सबको 3 गुना पगार दे दिया उन्होंने. तो मैं जब
अच्छा, गलती
गया
से।
सुबह कुछ किसी को चेक देने के लिए, मेरा सप्लायर आया हुआ था, तो बैंक में जीरो था. ओके, सो ऑल दीज थिंग्स, वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग. एंड रिसेशन में हमने स्टार्ट किया था. रिसेशन में स्टार्ट करना सबसे अच्छी बात है. ये मुझे मेरे बोर्ड मेंबर ने बताया लेटर, बिकॉज सब चीज चीप मिला. रेंट चीप मिला, फर्नीचर चीप मिला, हार्डवेयर सॉफ्टवेयर we could get
I
at
see.
throwaway prices, and then we
Right,
didn't
right.
have to pay very high salaries. So इसलिए हम लोग काफी अच्छी तरह बूटस्ट्रैप भी कर सके. और टाइम भी था उन दिनों, ऐसा नहीं था कि कुछ रैट रेस था. So we took our time, scaled it up to profitability. उसके बाद हम लोगों ने VC money ली. Then only I realized what VC money is, what is dilution, how do you handle VCs, how do you handle a bigger board. And the company, starting with 2 or 3 people, actually at its peak was employing 150 or 180 people. And
Okay.
It had a 21 million dollar run rate. And then we basically decided to sell the IP and to a company called BEA, which was doing the app server work around which we were doing some work. And then उसके बाद BEA को Oracle ने acquire कर दिया. तो मेरे टीम मेंबर्स काफी BEA में गए और BEA से Oracle में गए और Oracle से Google, वहीं पे है. काफी लोगों ने वही उस स्टार्टअप से एटलीस्ट 10 स्टार्टअप्स पैदा हुए थे.
That's awesome. That's the thing. I think that's the thing. जो भी first generation के entrepreneurs होते हैं, I think the startups that they build produces a lot more startups. Coming out from their own employees. We have seen that in Flipkart over here.
सोच एंटरप्रेन्योर होनी चाहिए, एंड जज्बा होना चाहिए, जुनून होना चाहिए. बिकॉज ये अगर नहीं होगा तो आप, और मजा भी आना चाहिए. अगर ये सब नहीं होगा तो आप अपने ऊपर प्रेशर डालोगे. अभी जो देखता हूँ थोड़ा काफी प्रेशर है एटलीस्ट स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स के ऊपर.
Because of the VC money or in general, like speed to market?
क्या हो रहा है कि नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. पहली बात यह है कि फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल्स थिंकिंग थोड़ा गायब है. क्यों मैं स्टार्टअप कर रहा हूँ, कहाँ पे मार्केट है, कौन मेरा प्रोडक्ट एक्सेप्ट करेगा. ओके, उसमें अगर पूरा क्लैरिटी नहीं है तो लोग स्ट्रगल करेंगे. इन्वेस्टमेंट पैसा भी आ गया, वीसी भी आ गए, और आपको ये प्रिसिशन की तरह नहीं पता है तो स्ट्रगल होगा. You'll have to keep on changing your thing, right? It's okay to change also. I'm not saying you shouldn't based on pragmatics, but like you will actually run into these issues. So, and then there is always this peer pressure with today's media. आज का गवर्नमेंट तो PR है, उनको तो PR अच्छा लगता है. मीडिया को तो नेगेटिव पॉजिटिव न्यूज अच्छा लगता है, और किसी और के बारे में छापेगा तो लोगों को बुरा लगता है, मेरा नाम भी होना चाहिए. So all of this pressure adds up.
Right, I see. No, right, sir. Totally agree with all those points. And so you came back to India. आपने HCL में काम किया, then maybe you shifted to Cognizant and Persistent. तो Venture East में आपका आना कब हुआ?
Venture East मैं 2016 दिसंबर में ज्वाइन किया, because पहला proper venture role was with Helion Advisors. Helion.
Yes.
As venture partner. And वहाँ पे क्या हुआ कि original plan was Ashish, who was a founder, would go to the US and then we would do a new fund and continue on. तो Venture East join करने का कोई kind of plan भी नहीं था, कुछ plan भी नहीं था मेरा, to be honest. पर क्या हुआ, पार्टनर्स के बीच कभी कभार थोड़ा डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियंस हो जाता है. तो उन्होंने बोला कि हम नहीं करेंगे, मैं यूएस जा रहा हूँ, खाली जो हमने इन्वेस्ट किया उसको भी रीप करना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज 3 फंड हो गए हैं. तो रहना चाहते हो तो रहो, बट खाली एग्जिट्स में फोकस होगा, ऑपरेशन में फोकस होगा. नहीं रहना चाहते हो तो डेफिनेटली वी विल हेल्प यू. सो क्या हुआ कि वेंचर ईस्ट वाज अ फंड फाउंडेड बाय माय फ्रेंड्स हु आर आल्सो फ्रॉम आईआईटी मद्रास. तो पूरा आईआईटी मद्रास का ही था, और वो भी उनके साथ भी मेरा ऑफ एंड ऑन काइंड ऑफ इंटरेक्शंस होता था, बिकॉज व्हेन आई डिड माय फर्स्ट स्टार्टअप प्रेटसल लॉजिक, one of the Venture East partners at that time, Raghu Mendu, or founders, he came and helped me with my term sheet and funding. So I'm talking about 1996, 1997. So तब से relationship चल रहा है, plus they're seniors from IIT and the seniors from school also, because Hyderabad Public School is a good school. तो वहाँ पे भी ये seniors थे. So it was a no-brainer. I was thinking what to do, and they said, "Can you just come and help us out? We need someone at a partner level." So that's how I joined their second tech fund and took over 1 or 2 portfolio companies from the first fund.
Okay,
So
I see.
that's where I am, and now I think they're raising their third fund. Third fund में मैं नहीं जाऊंगा because another 10-year commitment is unfair. We'll have to give it off to younger people. That's what we've thought. And what I'm doing is still very active in the startup community. I advise T-Hub, I advise Triple IT Hyderabad, IIT Bombay, IIT Madras. To say I'm kind of fairly happy. And then once in a while, I engage with some universities, colleges, research centers. So I'm pretty happy.
That's great, sir. That's great. Sir, I would also like you to touch upon a little bit on the term general partner. Who is a general partner and what exactly does a general partner do? Are there kinds of general partner, or do all of them have the same responsibilities? इस पे थोड़ा सा अगर आप कुछ सर बता सकें.
हाँ, mostly the vanilla flavor, जो एक standard flavor है general partner का, उसमें ability होनी चाहिए कि he can raise capital from limited partners, so which means he has to have a track record. Either entrepreneur रहा हुआ होगा या senior exec रहा हुआ होगा या तो उसने कुछ investments की होंगी पहले, right? या investment teams में रही होंगे पहले. So that is the kind of profile which will eventually become a general partner. Because you need to be able to raise capital, manage your limited partners in terms of expectation. उनका भी expectation होता है ना, because they give you money.
Definitely,
so they will
definitely.
need, they want to see transparency, they want to see continuity, they want to see sincerity, they want to see track record. तो वो सब बरकरार रखना पड़ता है. And then उसके बाद अगर देखेंगे आप, एक और एबिलिटी है कि अगर आप एंटरप्रेन्योर हो या कोई डोमेन में सीनियर मैनेजमेंट रोल में काम किया हुआ है आपने, या फाइनेंस के तौर में काम किया हुआ है, तो ऑल दैट एबिलिटी आल्सो कम्स इन, बिकॉज जिस कंपनी में आप पैसे डाल रहे हो उसमें तो आपको बोर्ड रोल मिलेगा या ऑब्जर्वर रोल मिलेगा. तो कैसे आप उस रोल को लेवरेज करके फाउंडर्स के साथ एक अच्छा रिलेशनशिप, बिकॉज यू माइट बी अ वेरी गुड फंड रेजर, पर अगर एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के साथ आपकी बनती नहीं है कभी-कभी, तो वो वेस्ट हो जाता है. So even that's a very important factor where you should be someone reasonably well known that the entrepreneur also respects. तो वैसे ही kind of stories बनते हैं, because companies एक दिन में तो they won't go to become a unicorn. Sometimes it takes 10 years, right? अभी recently हमारे company Zaggle public गया, but it's taken, the whole journey for them has taken at least 12 to 14 years. Okay?
I see.
And we've been there. Despite the fact that our LPs basically were giving us pressure, because 10 saal ke baad they say that write it off, do this. But we still stuck with them. We convinced the LPs, we convinced the market, and the entrepreneur is very happy. ठीक है, हम लोग पैसे नहीं बनाएंगे, at least LPs पैसे बनाएंगे, and the entrepreneur makes money and the ecosystem benefits. So at the end of the day, that is a perspective, right? So if you have that, all those qualities in you, then that means you're a general partner. Okay,
right.
And amongst general partner there will be seniority when you came in.
Okay.
तो उस हिसाब से आपको वेरिएबल पे भी मिलेगा, उस हिसाब से आपको मैनेजिंग पार्टनर रोल भी मिलेगा, depending on if one of them came first, then he becomes a managing partner. If he retires, then the next person becomes. So that is standard stuff. So that is what is general partner. Right. Venture partner is slightly different. It will be the same level seniority, but they will only look at scaling companies. They won't look at fundraise. They will look at assets and help them grow. So these are two different roles. One is investment plus helping the company grow and exit. Venture partner is more helping the company grow and help towards an exit.
Okay, I see. So venture partner, I was of the notion that venture partner also helps in fundraising for the VCs.
No.
Try to bring LPs to them. Okay.
Maybe they'll bring LPs, but they won't be responsible for, like, for example, their compensation won't be responsible for fundraise.
Yeah.
Because if they're doing both, then they should be called a general partner, in my opinion.
Right. Agreed. So, sir, आपने mention किया, very briefly about the investors' expectations कि generally तो 10 साल का fund होता है, ठीक है, and investors are of the notion कि यार VC में पैसा डाल रहे हैं, we would ideally expect higher returns at a very short period of time, in a very short period of time. राइट? सो ये प्रेशर रहता है इन्वेस्टर्स का VCs के ऊपर. So, sort of again, structuring my whole question, what do you think are the strengths of our VC ecosystem, and where are we lacking? Are we lacking in managing the investors' expectations? कुछ गलत information जा रही है इन्वेस्टर के पास, उन्हें समझ में नहीं आ रहा VC कैसे काम करता है. Because 10 years again, it's not that short of a time, as well as not that long a period for a startup to grow and go to an IPO. So how do you do that, sir?
So इंडिया में मुश्किल है, बिकॉज अभी द इंडियन वीसी इकोसिस्टम इज आल्सो रीजनेबली यंग. तो आपको 1960s में जाना पड़ेगा when the US venture ecosystem started. Okay, so we are still, I would say, about 40 years, 50 years behind, I would say. Our real momentum started to happen in 2008. ठीक है, तो उस दौरान जब हम लोग अर्ली स्टेज इन्वेस्ट कर रहे थे, मैं भी कर रहा था ऑन एन इंडिविजुअल बेसिस, एंड VC फंड्स जो थे उन दिनों में भी 10-12 VC funds, they were also doing it. There was no notion of valuation, there was no notion of expectation. तो हम लोग क्या किए, the early set of VCs, we basically said that we will need capital for a longer period of time, so we started that exercise of actually managing LP expectations. दूसरी बात हम लोगों ने क्या किया, we said we will not be dependent on the government. Because if you're dependent on the government तो हर 5 साल चेंज होती है, पॉलिसीज तो हर 1 साल चेंज होती है,
right?
Okay, especially regulatory bodies India में every 2 months they'll keep putting out something. So we said we don't want any hit pit, we don't want any local investors, because उनका expectation जो आप बोल रहे थे, मैंने पैसा डाला था बैंक में रखता तो 6-7% मिल जाते. So you have to get the right kind of person. Either the person has to believe in you and be an entrepreneur, or it has to be a family office जिनका long term thinking है कि इस टेक्नोलॉजी से हमें कुछ फायदा होगा, या it is people who are long term impact oriented. तो हम लोगों ने क्या किया, we actually, our LPs were all sovereign funds.
Okay.
Sovereign funds from Europe, sovereign funds from US, sovereign funds from outside India, who basically wanted global impact. तो हमारा थीम क्या था, Venturies and even Helion, we said we will help, or we can encourage disruption through technology. That's one. 2, we will help the underserved. So if you look at our investments thematically, it's all been very good. The only downside to it is kabhi we have chosen things which are much longer for gestation, more than 10 years, right? And unfortunately, some of these unregulated markets became regulated later. Now the policy makers जो भी change बनाते हैं ना, वो पीछे नहीं देखते, काफी टाइम आगे भी नहीं देखते, आज चाहिए एक पॉलिसी छोड़ो. ओके, तो उससे क्या होता है कि बहुत डिस्ट्रप्शन होता है, एंड द कंपनी itself goes through a lot of issues because they have to redo everything, they have to take some products out, especially if you look at financial technologies में, fintech.
Fintech
काफी issues हुए recently, especially people who are in payments, who are in loans. तो अगर बदलते रहोगे ना, उनको भी चांस नहीं मिलता और गवर्नमेंट को भी चांस नहीं मिलता कि हमने कुछ किया है. ठीक है, रेगुलेशन आ गया. तो मेरे ख्याल से इंडिया, the reason we avoided taking money from India, and even now we do consciously, is because that holistic thinking is not there. तो एक साइड स्टार्टअप इंडिया फंड से आपको फंड से आपको कुछ पैसे मिल गया, फिर बिकॉज वो पैसा गवर्नमेंट से आया, एक्चुअली गवर्नमेंट से नहीं आया, हम लोगों का ही पैसा है, बिकॉज इट्स ऑल टैक्स पेयर मनी. ओके, बट द फनी थिंग इज वी आर अकाउंटेबल फॉर दैट आल्सो. ओके, सो जब आता है तो क्या होता है कि सडनली बोलेंगे कि आपने ये कंपनी में इन्वेस्ट किया, उसमें कोई इन्वेस्टर है बाहर से, तो उसको एग्जिट करो, नहीं तो हम लोग अपना फंड ले लेंगे वापस. तो उनका, आई मीन, ऑपरेटिंग लाइक हाउ दे थिंक इज वेरी वेरी interesting. They'll say like, we will protect our thing, we'll protect our policy, and then we can even pull out money. No, you can't do that. Okay. And then if you take it from these government agencies, they're on their own timeline, on their own reporting schedule. So it becomes very difficult to actually even talk to them, right? And if you talk to them about investments, you have to educate them. Okay. क्यों कर रहे हो, ये कैसा हार्डवेयर है, कैसा सॉफ्टवेयर, क्या AI है, क्या ये है. तो अभी देखो DST का अटल इनोवेशन मिशन है, स्टार्टअप इंडिया सीड फंड, सब चीज है, इंटेंशन है, बट कॉन्टिन्यूटी नहीं है बिकॉज गवर्नमेंट इज इलेक्टेड फॉर 5 years and then you keep on changing rules regulations and the way you administrate is कोई जूनियर लोगों को लगा देते हो, एक्सपर्ट्स नहीं है, तो वो इंजन चलते ही रहेगा. अगर आप एक रिपोर्टिंग मिस करोगे तो कुछ फाइन दे देंगे. अब देखो सेबी को देखो यार, वी आर AIF मेंबर्स, हम पैसे देते हैं उन्हें, तंग करते हैं वो हमें.
कैसे सर?
They will kind of say this compliance is not there, that is not there, ये करो वो करो. They are सर्विस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है ना, फर्स्ट दे हैव टू सर्व अस. वो मेंटालिटी नहीं है. अभी इनकम टैक्स को देखो, दे सेंड यू नोटिस. तो अगर आप चेंज कर दो रेगुलेशंस एंड स्टार्टअप के पास पैसे नहीं है, बिकॉज कैश फ्लो इज ऑलवेज अ प्रॉब्लम, तो जीएसटी आप लागू कर देते हो, और जिस दिन वो स्टार्टअप इनवॉइस करता है उसे वो जीएसटी देना है 18%, 28%, जो भी कुछ. ओके, उसका मार्जिन गया.
सही है, ठीक है.
जो बंदे आपको पैसे देंगे फॉर योर सर्विसेज और योर प्रोडक्ट, उनके ऊपर कुछ नहीं है, वो टाइम लेते ही जाते हैं, राइट?
अच्छा.
तो दोनों साइड से स्टार्टअप का ही बैंड बचता है. तो काफी लोग को कंपनियां बंद करनी पड़ी. ये नहीं बोल रहा कि थोड़े स्टार्टअप्स में शेडी लोग भी नहीं है. Some founders also shady. So it's good to kind of have regulations. But then you should be practical. तो रेगुलेट आप देते हो पैसा स्टार्टअप के लिए, उसी के ऊपर आप टैक्स ठोक देते हो. एंजल टैक्स के बारे में बात करता हूं. मैं एक एंजल हूं, आपका कंपनी है एक्सक्लूटो. आई लाइक इट अ लॉट, आई वांट टू पुट मनी. मैंने पैसा डाला, उसका 30% एंजल टैक्स में ले गया. वो किसका फायदा है? किसी का नहीं.
हम दोनों में से तो
Yeah, so first of all, my ROI gets reduced. Okay, if I'm thinking that way. Secondly, I feel very angry that the money did not go into the company, it's gone to someone else. तो इस वजह से इंडियन स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम, टेक इकोसिस्टम, everything has to evolve and mature. And इसीलिए long term policies across governments which are stable are very, very important. 1950s and 60s में रही आप, when the VC ecosystem was starting off. 95% of it, the tech stuff was all worked on by government in research labs and was opened up. समझ में आई बात? So continuity था, long term vision था. यहाँ पे क्या हुआ? We don't think like that. आप जाइए, कौन सा, go to any number one school in India, say in an NIRF ranking it's IIT Madras. आप जाके देखिए वहां से कितने ट्रांसलेशन रिसर्च प्रोग्राम्स बाहर आए हैं.
नो आइडिया सर.
मेरी इंस्टीट्यूट है 1959 में स्थापित हुई थी. So now how many years is that?
1989 में स्टार्ट हुई थी.
1959.
1959, it's more than 40, 30, 70 years.
65 years. 65 years. Okay. And I still feel it has not come to its full potential. क्यों? आप बोलोगे क्यों? Because सब चीज में अगर गवर्नमेंट का हाथ होता है, ओके, तो 5-5 साल के ही प्रोग्राम्स बनेंगे. It won't be a long-term program. Or unfortunately or fortunately, India has a ways to go, not because we don't have smart people. Okay, we also have a population issue because we have to solve fundamental problems like food, water, electricity, transportation, education, healthcare. उसमें भी ठीक से फोकस नहीं करते because 5-5 साल के प्रोग्राम डाल देते हैं. Okay, so now what the hour is, the need of the hour is basically जो भी कोई युवा हैं, स्मार्ट पीपल हैं, उनको थोड़ा लॉन्ग टर्म सोच में डालना चाहिए. एवरीवन, सब लोग ट्रांजैक्शनल हो गए. गवर्नमेंट भी ट्रांजैक्शनल है. क्या दिखाना है 4 साल में? 4 साल में तो कुछ नहीं होगा, खाली दिखावा होगा. ओके, और प्रोफेसर कैसे प्रोड्यूस करेगा कोर टेक्नोलॉजी? उसको भी थोड़ा टाइम चाहिए, उसको भी 3-4 बैचेस ऑफ रिसर्चर्स चाहिए. तो क्या प्रोड्यूस करेगा? खाली पेपर्स प्रोड्यूस करेगा वो, उसके अलावा कुछ नहीं होगा. और जिनको वो पेपर्स लेके स्टार्टअप बनाना है, उनके पास एक्सपर्टीज नहीं है, ट्रांसलेशनल, कुछ प्रोटोटाइप नहीं बना है, कुछ टेस्ट नहीं हुआ है, तो अगर वो स्टार्ट करेंगे स्क्रैच से तो और टाइम लगेगा, तब तक विदेश में 10x प्रोग्रेस हो गया होगा।
सर ये तो मतलब एक 360 डिग्री प्रॉब्लम ही प्रॉब्लम लग रही है हर जगह से।
नो, इंटेंशन ठीक होना चाहिए, लॉन्ग टर्म थिंकिंग होना चाहिए। इफ आई वांट टू डू रिसर्च एंड से large language models, I want to really do research for 20-25 years uninterrupted, and I want to give the research to anyone independent of political parties or elected government.
Right.
Fine, you can have some regulations in terms of कौन ले सकता है कौन नहीं ले सकता, वो सब करो, but if ये 20 साल का 25 साल का if you don't have the vision, कुछ नहीं होगा। हम लोग नकल करते रह जाएंगे, नकल करने में थोड़ा अच्छा हो गए हम बस।
तो सर आप कह रहे हो कि अभी भी we lack a lot in the research and development, in innovation, because of such things.
ये जो अमृत काल की बात कर रहे हैं ना लोग, अभी तक आया नहीं है, और आएगा भी नहीं अगर बात करते रहें। काम करना चाहिए and long term.
Right. So coming back to sir Venture East, I mean 1997 से I think you said कि ये second fund है, अभी चल रहा है, third fund आने वाला है या fourth fund आने वाला है?
Fourth fund.
Fourth fund. So has the philosophy of Venture East changed over a period of time, or is it still the same? आपने कहा था टेक में फोकस आपका ज्यादा है, डिस्ट्रप्टिव टेक।
टेक में फोकस है इंडिपेंडेंट ऑफ वर्टिकल और सर्विंग द अंडरसर्व्ड मार्केट। समझ में आई? Serving the underserved could be rural health, could be affordable healthcare, could be affordable education, right? Could be financial inclusion, could be agri-tech. Okay, so that has always been our focus, which is how do we kind of pick a right team and a right area which can actually go and create an impact, leveraging technology, the current technology or recently established technologies.
Will you be able to give an example of such an investment done by Venture East, which is bringing in real impact?
Many. We did the first fabulous semiconductor called MOS chip. We did it in year 2000. लोग आज बात कर रहे हैं fabulous. Why? Because that government did not understand, which was also BJP then. तो गया.
Those are the ways. Okay. But coalition.
No. So see, here we are. Then we did Ocean Sparkle, which was the first time we kind of put together professional port management software and hardware and all that. So that did very well. Then we did Dodla Dairy. The dairy industry itself was undergoing transformation. So how do we create an Amul-like equivalent where we have things mechanized and create an impact? So Dodla Dairy is going to go public. Then we did Gland Pharma, which is basically vaccines didn't have the bottles that were used to transport vaccines for injections, and the injection itself were very expensive. So Gland Pharma actually took that on very, very early. They did really well. They've also exited. All these are billion-dollar companies, by the way. We never used to care about unicorns. Only now people care about unicorns. So I'll keep going on, okay? From there, I told you about Zaggle, which went public. Richcore, which was into basically life sciences for vegetable-oriented protein. So, आपका surgery हुआ and you want to recover. So they'll give you some protein drink. So typically, albumin is made from animal protein. So this company, Richcore, made it out of vegetarian protein. It's done very well. And it's been acquired by Lotus Labs. And then we have CPS, which is basically the first recycling company. So all the things that you see, all the bags, fatigue uniforms for the army is all made by PET recycling. It's become a fairly large company. What the bad thing that we have done, which we should have learned from the current government, is to do more PR. Okay. Okay.
Okay, sir.
This is actual on the ground work. Now let's take a look at tech companies. Okay, whether it's Helion or whether it's Venture East. So we have done Make My Trip, we have done Red Bus, we have done Ola, we have done Big Basket, we have done ID Fresh, we have done SMS Gupshop, we have done what's the other one recently, which it went public in the US. It was basically into PubSub, tech pops up, something like InMobi, uska public offering hua. Then on the SaaS side, we have done essentially ZapStitch, we have done Qubit, we have done WhatFix, we have done MoEngage. These are all, at least WhatFix and MoEngage are close to $1 billion valuations, right? Or Abhi Dekho Ventures, this particular Ventures, we've got some really interesting companies like Loham Tech for battery recycling. We've got Kisht, which is financial inclusion, on EMI, Kisht, financial inclusion, right? And I forgot a few other things which we are doing in from the older Ventures portfolio. So you might have heard of a lens card equivalent called Ben Franklin, okay, for vision. And then we used to have a company called Dentees for dental care, right? And Portia for elderly care, home care, is another one of our portfolio companies. Econ Care, corporate healthcare, and OPD, oriented services, right?
Wow.
Then, so there must be at least 40 companies which are doing some really cool stuff, okay?
Right.
Now, whoever wants to claim credit, I'm not talking about us, whoever wants to claim credit can claim credit. But you know what? At least understand that we've been doing it for 20, 25 years. And we are hands-on techie people. We are not administrators and we are not policymakers who just basically write out anything, right? So, wo cheez India mein agar transform hoga, I'm hoping that more and more people like me are invited so that actually there is something. Then only things will happen. If you say, oh, you know what, I can't invite him because he's going to be critical. He's going to say this is all BS, which I will. Okay, I will happily say if something is BS, I'll tell it's BS. Then they have a problem. But I'm telling it's BS because if you do it this way, you won't be able to implement and reap the benefits. That people don't think.
But that's I mean, I think it should be the way people take feedback, and I mean the way you tell them. Are people actually averse of taking feedback? You're saying?
No, actually, they don't like to be told that this is not the way to do things because ABC. I will never say it's bad. I'll say it won't work because ABC. You have to consider these things. Bring this kind of element into thinking. वो नहीं होगा उनके पास. Because first of all, they don't even have a network. They're good with the same old set of people. So, अगर आप देखें, I'm coming up with a new fintech company. Then I go to the regulators. The regulators are same. If you look at the bank public PSU bank boards like SBI or the large private like HDFC or Kotak, the bank directors are the same. They don't even change those
years. Okay.
Not 6 years. Some have been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
You look at the IIT boards. They are not hands-on people anymore. Maybe they have influence, but they are not going to be basically able to drive. So they become dysfunctional boards. I've taken a company public, Persistent to gaya public. तो उसके बारे में भी मैं बोलता हूँ, I'm a shareholder, उसी के बारे में बोलता हूँ. They're going through the same issue, same board members. Now, if you're 70 plus, what? You're past your pride. Most people, right?
Right. Agreed.
So then what happens is there's a vacuum always. So whatever you have to do, it has to be connected. It has to be long term. Is all I'm saying. You ask me, there are at least another 20 companies I can tell you, which are doing well and will do well. Hasura.io, Innovator, okay?
Innovator.
Then
Ether. Have you invested in Ether as well?
Ether also. Get Postman, Hyperverge. All these companies are future. They're going to do well. Planis, Agnicool, Skyroot, Dhruva.
Okay, wow.
Okay? Now you come back and say, मैं space tech करूंगा. अरे हो रहा है ना, उसको तो help करो.
But then why do care? And then why do anyway care about PR? You mentioned कि हमने PR अच्छे से नहीं किया. अगर impact कर रहे हैं, we are bringing the impact on ground.
That is what I'm saying. But what happens is when PR comes out, तो काफी टाइम अगर आप PR नहीं करते हो तो these things are missed out. So that is where I feel bad. I don't feel bad about Ventures personally, right? वैसे or Helion, but we missed calling out these companies because they're doing really well, right? अगर आप फोन पे देख लो, हमारा एक कंपनी था इंडस ओएस, उन्होंने एक्वायर किया रिसेंटली 2 साल पहले. Now the entire phone pay platform is going to get enhanced because of that for deep transactions, related transactions. It'll become a convenience app, right? Now, all of this thinking we were doing in 2012, but well-defined APIs are not there. See, the whole ecosystem takes time. So, जो भी कोई पॉलिसी बना रहा है वो ग्राउंड्स अप करना चाहिए, फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल्स थिंकिंग से करना चाहिए, प्रोटोकॉल से करना चाहिए, सिक्योरिटी से करना चाहिए. अभी भी मुझे गुस्सा आता है कि इस कंट्री में वी हैव नॉट एक्चुअली इंप्लीमेंटेड ब्लॉकचेन ऑन एनी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट प्लेटफॉर्म. आप जाइए. जस्ट द अदर डे मैंने अपनी 84 उम्र की माता जी को ले गया था मैं कुछ रजिस्ट्रेशन करने के लिए. वहां पे 6 घंटे खड़े होना पड़े. वो डिजिटल एंड मैनुअल था. कम से कम 72 सिग्नेचर करने पड़े. ओके, 3 घंटा वेट करना पड़ा किसी को आने के लिए ताकि वो फोटोग्राफ और एक डिजिटल सिग्नेचर ले. Now, someone who's 84 years, even मैं भी senior citizen, I'm also 62. We are standing. Now, this is not digital India in my book. So much can be done.
Right.
And we have to register. अगर register नहीं करोगे तो कोई और आके ले जाएगा.
But the digital India की anyway journey.
एक मजाक की बात बोलूं?
Please.
So I advised T-Hub. February 29 को मैं रास्ता क्रॉस कर रहा था, and एक ऑटो वाला रॉन्ग साइड से आके मुझे ठोक दिया. Okay.
अच्छा.
And then obviously there was a lot of commotion. तो पुलिस को भी बुलाया. पुलिस को नहीं बुला पहले बोले. मैं बोला क्यों नहीं बुला? बिकॉज मेरा एनीवे आई हैव अ हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम. आपने काफी अच्छी तरह से ठोका है. लेफ्ट शोल्डर, लेफ्ट हिप, राइट साइड ऑफ द हेड एंड ऑल इज इंजर्ड. सो अनलेस आई फाइल एन FIR, आई वुडंट बी एबल टू क्लेम एनी इंश्योरेंस.
आई सी.
दैट्स द फंडामेंटल प्रूफ. नहीं, हम तो ठीक साइड से आ रहे हैं. तो वो बोल रहा है कॉप को. तो मैंने कॉप को बोला यहाँ पे CCTV कैमरा है, वहां से फुटेज उठा लो. तो उठाया तो वो गलत था. Then they called me to the thing. I gave the medical report. तो मैं उसने बोला कि FIR लिखो. So I said, dear inspector, मैंने लिख लिया. तो फिर बोलता ये FIR ऐसा नहीं लिखना चाहिए. तो मैंने उससे बोला आपने प्लेन कागज से दिया हुआ था ना? नहीं सर, you have to write it from left with 1 millimeter gap to right with 1 millimeter gap. तो बोला क्यों? बोला आपको पता नहीं सर, क्या होता है कि FIR आता है तो अगर गैप होगा तो कोई आके उसके ऊपर कुछ क्रॉस यूज करके चेंज कर देगा FIR. बढ़िया. So why can't you have a digital interface right there? And the cops were there anyway. They could have just taken an audio. छोटे चीज हम बोलते हैं. And we do it deliberately to torture people. आपने इंश्योरेंस लिया हुआ है कभी? आपने इंश्योरेंस लिया हुआ है?
Like claim?
नहीं, क्लेम नहीं. रेगुलर इंश्योरेंस है आपके पास कुछ, यूलिप ऐसे कुछ स्कीम. तो देखो परफॉर्मेंस कैसा है. when you want to close it, you'll see how much trouble it is to close it also.
Oh, I can believe that.
Yes. So वही बोल रहा हूँ ना, there are lots of places to improve and reduce costs, provided the policy makers, the board, as I told you, investors like us encourage young companies to do it, give them chance, right, to kind of do something. Like Acco is one of our investments, right?
Acco,
they're doing very well.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
But the point is, they are still scared of IRDA because उनके कोई old-fashioned regulations हैं. Okay. Now, if you make it convenient and it is actually delivering, the government should encourage it. So there is this propensity to control, एक side से, okay, and there is this propensity to say, hey, we are the number 3rd startup capital of the world, right? ऐसे नहीं चलता. एजुकेशन में देख लो. आप स्कूल गए थे ना? If we had, when did you go to school? बोलिए.
1987.
ठीक है.
Like
by then we had enough things online. By then we had enough things online where you could have benefited. Could have been packaged nicely and given. Even today, government schools are still lagging behind. Again, it doesn't It's not expensive. It can be done very nicely. Many schemes have been proposed. It has never been adopted. So I think the openness and the long-term thing which is there in the US, agar hame wo kind of values aa gaye, and we get people to participate with the government on committees to drive these things and educate. See, sometimes I don't blame the minister, I don't blame the prime minister and all, because they have to be also educated. But if that education is coming in a very biased manner, then ultimately it's detrimental to the country.
I hope things are changing for the better.
I hope so too. Because I have another 5 years to give. After that, I'll probably be just tooling around doing my own thing, right?
That's great, sir. So, I mean, I would like to again come back to Venture East and understand. You said that majorly of your LP, base is outside India, right? Especially sovereign funds, right? And that too, sovereign funds, not individuals.
No, all are sovereign funds. Currently, we are going to change it. We will try in the next fund to get a few family offices from India and make some exceptions. But as I told you, we don't feel comfortable and they don't feel comfortable. See, they also have to change. They also have to adopt a long-term thinking, as you said. If they're looking for returns every 2 years, that's not going to work.
Then, sir, what would you say about the HNIs and the ultra HNIs of India who does have that sort of capital? Let's say who have that sort of capital to take the risk of investing in a VC kind of asset class. So, I mean, we are talking about sovereign funds, we are talking about family offices. So, what about this base?
So,
this
I'll
base?
tell
Are they
you,
way behind?
Yeah, I tell you, the issue with ultra HNIs and HNIs are there are two categories. One are people who are looking to make a quick buck, which I call Banya type guys. So for Banya type guys, it becomes very, very tough. And we don't want to have them also, because their expectation and our expectations is going to be a big gap. So for them, I tell them, if you want to still participate in startup, go to platforms like Tyke or Let's Venture, take a small exposure and see what happens, or join some angel groups and you get educated. So foray. So they will transform and they will start to come mainstream, but it's just started. Maybe after COVID, people have started to look at it seriously. And there's another category of ultra HNIs, like with my kind of background, who've been techies, who've done their own startups, and they've actually contributed as LPs to funds individually, and have seen the whole thing. Those are the guys, if they start participating more, we will see much, much better impact and much better micro VC funds, which is very, 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 very important, because that's what happens in the Bay Area, in the Valley. People who've done their startups now start to give and be involved in some area, maybe whatever area of expertise they have, right? So that's also happening, but I wish it happens more.
So you're saying
most of the people.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. First, you ask your question.
So you're saying that in the second category as well, where people have been outside India, or are techies and made money, let's say, from their own
not
startup.
Outside India, in India.
In India as well.
In India. So, for example, there are a lot of early Infosys employees, Wipro employees, HCL employees who had stocks. Okay, Persistent, for example, right? Need not be abroad. Obviously, people abroad have a little bit more exposure and they come. What's happening here is these people are also starting to participate, but they get really pissed off when you put an angel tax.
That's okay.
समझ में आई बात? So you want to encourage the thing, you should not restrict it too much, because this is early stage risky investments. If you put too many restrictions, then what happens is it won't move. You won't give it the requisite momentum or size.
Okay. Understood. So basically, you said there is still, I mean, you did mention the angel tax thing that could be a hindrance in why such kind of HNI class is not coming in.
The angel tax is just one. Angel tax is एक example दिया मैंने. GST का example दिया, okay? SEBI का AIF पे example दिया, right? Because now they have a definition of what is a long-term investor or high net worth. वो सब है. So, and even if I want capital as a startup from outside, the process has become very, very elaborate in terms of double KYC and things like that. Because US operates very differently. तो वहां पे अगर आपका अकाउंट है तो ऑटोमेटिकली इट्स KYC because you have a social security number, everything. So why should you furnish all those details here? People are not comfortable. ठीक है, there must be a reason, but the point is it's affecting startups, so they have to think. See, I can understand they don't want foreign money to come because it could be used for something else, right? But then if it's coming for the right purpose and you've validated it, let it come quickly.
But then anyway, sir, majority of the money in the VCP ecosystem is coming from outside India, right?
Today, but that might stop slowly. And it stops slowly for the same reason, because the government keeps on coming up with some new taxes. See, LPs ka kya hai? They, if you look at the US, it's a very simple thing, right? If you are investing early and then you're getting returns, you get a lot of tax breaks because you're taking the risk. That is what basically attracts investors. Now, यहाँ पे क्या होता है कि money comes and then you restrict it upon exit, and then lots of kind of kitpit goes on, right? Then people say, it's a hassle. No, it's a hassle. I mean, why should I take this exposure? I might as well go to Africa. So क्या होगा कि all the benefits that was happening here will go off to Africa and other countries. Because what do LPs from outside want, especially institutions? They, like sovereign funds or whoever, or even endowments or foundations, right? They want to make an impact. Their thing is impact, and if we get returns without hassles, it's good. Now here, you have the potential for impact, but the returns are not at all there because there's so many loopholes. Whereas, say, some other country makes it easy, money will go there automatically.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
So I'm hoping in after these elections, after June 4th, everyone freaking wakes up. Not, they shouldn't be living in their own echo chamber and saying we are doing well. Wakes up and focuses on these fundamental problems. Otherwise, long term, the VC industry will also struggle. It won't be attractive for people like us to kind of start funds.
Okay, makes sense. So, sir, I mean, I think we are coming towards the last leg of our podcast.
Sure.
So I would like to sort of, end this with some optimism, maybe some hopes, right? And would like to know from
there is hope, there is optimism, there are numbers on our side, okay, which I told you we have not done a good job in actually exposing to the government. Maybe some of the fault lies with us, but what I should encourage the government is to add more people like us into their think tank proactively, okay, and make sure we are listened to, and make sure things are translated with a long-term perspective. As I said, that is when people will understand, hey, these guys really get it. If they have got a hardware vision, they've got it. They've got a 20-year plan. They've got a, whatever you're doing, whether it's in Gen AI, whether it's in info security, whether it's in quantum computing, whether it's in telecommunications, whether it's in logistics, whether it's in EV, it needs, or even drones or space tech, it needs a very long, clear kind of vision. Do we have the ingredients? We absolutely do now, compared to, say, 20 years ago. Have we improved in our short-term thinking to long-term thinking? The answer is unfortunately no. So that's the only thing I'll say is pessimistic. So for that, the government itself has to change. Not just the government, the opposition has to change. All political parties who come to power have to change. And they have to think in a unified manner for all this, right? It's not in your hands or my hands. If they keep on breaking it up, then after a while, even we'll lose interest, right? Because it becomes a struggle. Instead of doing our main job, we're busy doing all this.
Yeah, you only have so much energy to.
So over a period of time, you also give up. So key thing is, there is momentum. Everything is there, is all I'm saying when you say positive no. I am only requesting the government to open up a little bit more, not be very, very cloistered, not be parochial, not think they are the experts in everything, which they are not. They're there only to serve. They're not there to kind of direct. If that mindset changes, I think we will actually do really well.
Great. So, sir, I think on that note, would sort of end this podcast over here.
Thank
It was
you.
great having conversation with you.